I'm noticing in the world there's a lot of tension and hostilities at the time of this recording. I mean, there's always tension and hostilities in the world, but it feels very intense right now at the time of this recording. And I was thinking about this the other day, and I was watching people online battle, talking back and forth, or people having conversations and having different desires and different outcomes that they're driving. And I'm looking at this going, I really notice a split between young people and older people in how they're approaching the things that they want to happen in life. And I noticed that when older people are online talking and conversing and putting forth their ideas and desires, they're often protecting their personal past. So, for example, they're protecting the things maybe they've built, the career they've built, the wealth they've built, the connections, the legacy they've built, the prestige they've built. They want to protect everything that they've been doing up until now. And so a lot of the desires that they put forth are protection desires to keep what they have, to keep and preserve what is there. And often young people, it's the reverse. It's young people are protecting their future, all the potentiality that's coming down the road. So they're looking at things that are going to mess up or disrupt possible future building of a life that's to come. And just those two frameworks in mind, like if you just approach most conversations, looking at somebody saying, okay, what station of life are they in? Are they more on the older side of life where they're preserving something that's come before? Or are they on the younger side of life? They're preserving something that's coming down the road. This could probably give us a good framework to understand why people show up the way they do and what creates the tensions that we're seeing all around us.
Yeah. And I kind of feel like I'm right between them.
I would agree.
Yeah.
I feel the same way.
I think that's the crazy thing about midlife is all of a sudden, one moment you're like, oh, wait a minute. I guess I don't have endless amounts of time. What is the thing that I'm going to leave as a legacy for this world?
Yeah.
And at the same time, I don't really feel like I'm not thinking about the future at all. I still have plenty of it in front of me. I mean, fingers crossed. So yeah, it feels like I'm in this really interesting midlife, right? Midpoint. And so, yeah, I feel like I can see both sides of this.
Well, and to add to that, being in the middle child of life age groups, our generation, Antonia, we are from the Gen X generation. We're also a very middle child generation, metaphorically speaking. Like we are between two very big dominant generations, the baby boomers, our parents' generation and that entire cohort, and millennials, that entire big generation and that cohort. And it sometimes feels like, I would think you would experience this, many Gen Xers experience that. We feel caught in between these two generations that are seemingly at odds with each other. They have a weird kind of love-hate relationship with each other often.
Oh, boomers and millennials?
Yes.
Yeah, they do. They do have a weird love-hate relationship.
Yeah.
And I think it's not just that we're the middle child, we're sort of the ignored child. Nobody really pays attention to Gen Xers. I took a screenshot one time of something that was trending on social media about Gen Xers. And it said at the bottom, trending with boomers. It was an article about Gen X, but it wasn't acknowledged that it was trending with Gen Xers. It was trending with other people. And so I'm like, oh, that's why it's trending, because somehow it caught the attention of boomers. And so now it's trending. So it's it's an interesting sort of bridge experience. And what's interesting about it too, beyond it just being a bridge and this sort of middle child syndrome, is that right now you're seeing Gen Xers really step into positions of leadership. I think maybe really truly becoming an influential generation, possibly for the first time, right?
Yeah.
Like having true legit. We've always had influence on some level, but it's always been very, very quiet. But right now, Gen Xers are in the forefront of things and getting themselves in a fair bit of trouble at the same time.
Yeah, well, they're not just, I don't think our generation is necessarily just stepping into leadership. We're also stepping into independence. So a lot of people in our generation, I've noticed, are like leaving their journalism jobs at the New York Times to go write on Substack. At the time of this recording, that's a huge platform for email newsletters. So people are becoming independent, and they're setting up almost little one-woman shops here and there. And they're creating an independent spirit of moving through the world and independent voices and pushing forth this kind of independence framework, this individualism framework, which is very much at odds, I would say, with kind of the ethos that's in the air in the world right now.
Yeah, the zeitgeist likes a more community feel. Like it's the zeitgeist to be, like, no, we're all in this together. And Xers themselves tend to be a more independent generation in general. And that comes from almost the marrow of them. And so they're the ones who are reminding the zeitgeist of the importance of a more independent streak. And neither one is the superior way of going about things.
Yeah.
Both the community aspect, the in this together aspect, and the individualism. I mean, this is sort of this is the challenge with reality, is that it's built on paradoxes. And the paradox is that both are equally important and both need to be represented simultaneously. And so when one side is, dominant in its energy or in its messaging or in its agenda or whatever you want to call it, right? Its intentions and motivations are the thing that is the energy we tend to get caught up with, then the other side has to fight. It has to fight for representation. It has to fight to remind people of its importance. And then when we're in a more independent time period, which we get into these time periods and cycles and seasons, and when we're in a more independent time period, that's when people who are more community oriented, more we're in this together, that's when they have to fight. And so right now we just happen to be in a time period where Xers and the more independent streak are the ones who are the outliers that are fighting to represent that very important reality alongside the other reality of the more community feel.
Yeah.